Hello everyone, I'm Max. Today I'll just be talking a little bit about my life with autism, kind of things that I've had to go through, things that I've had to experience. Right, don't you worry. Just things that I've experienced and what my mum and dad have had to put up with, bless them. So most of them was like that most of the time, you know, because couldn't cope. So yeah, I'll just be going through a bit of my life, things that helped, things that didn't, kind of schools I went to, and yeah. So we'll see how it goes basically. Introduction. So I suffer with Asperger's, autism. I have OCD as well. I also have ADHD, and I also have epilepsy. So the doctor loves me basically. Every time I go, it's another tick somewhere else. I mean, the autism I knew, I would say, quite early on. You know, it was probably around the age, because I couldn't speak till I was 6, so that was quite difficult. And obviously, my mum and dad knew there was something not quite right, you know, something not quite normal. The OCD started at quite a young age, and it all started because I sat on like a cut down tree, like there was a stump in front of our school, and I sat on it, and there was like a mushroom on the tree, and I touched it by mistake, and my brother said, "Oh, you want to wash your hands, so it could be poisonous." So that moment on, I was obsessed with the fact that I was trying to be poisoned. So, you know, my mum would make me sandwiches, the school would make me lunches. If the school made me a lunch, I'd throw it, wouldn't eat it. If my mum made me lunch, I would make my mum bite a bit of the sandwich off just to see if she fell over first. So I knew it wasn't poison, basically. It sounds ridiculous, but that's the kind of mentality, I think, you know, with OCD, what comes with it. And I think most of the time, it's not the fact that you have to do it, but you do it because you're scared something will happen. So there was one phase of my life where I had it really badly. Literally, I would go outside and anything I touched, like sticks and stones and anything like that, I would put in my pocket and I would take home. Mum would go through my trousers and find like 20 sticks, 20 stones, thinking, what the hell, you know, why is he bringing these home, you know? And I used to have to look left and right 100 times every time I tried to cross the road, and my right foot would have to leave the pavement, and if it didn't, I would have to redo the whole step again. I had kids coming up to me saying, "Why can't you cross the road?" And people with OCD they'll be very truthful, and they say they're very good at hiding it. You know, they hide the fact that they're doing these things, even though it's blatantly obvious they are, which was what was happening with me. The ADHD I kind of found out at the same time as the autism. Just couldn't. Once I got to talking, you just couldn't shut me up. So it just carried on and on and on. And you know, always found it hard to pay attention in school. You know, a lot of verbal communication I could never take in. If it was visual, I could. I saw something the other day. Apparently, 90% of people with with autism, 90% of visual stuff they take in, and 10% of verbal, and for the normal human brain it's the other way around. So they pick up 90% of verbal and 10% of visual. So I learn best by seeing. You know, if I'm going out and doing something, I need to see it to learn it. Which kind of epilepsy I found out quite later on. I was at college and my mum and dad, bless them, were downstairs and they heard this big bang and they thought it was just me getting angry on FIFA, you know, typical teenager playing this game, getting the ump. And anyway, they walked upstairs and found me on the floor, blood coming out of my mouth, and I was having a fit. So didn't have one for 2 years, and then 2 years later I had another one, and then I had another one the week after, and then I was diagnosed with epilepsy. Interesting fact, 90% of cases, they don't know what causes the epilepsy. You know, there's only 10% that they know is visual, you know, with lights, and as mine is unknown. So that's a bit like, all right, that's nice. Another uncertainty. So what I do in my life is I work full-time in IT. So I started off as an apprentice, and then I went on to fulfill the apprenticeship, complete it, and then I went on to do IT full-time. I also do YouTube, so I've been doing YouTube now for about 10 years, still ain't made it. Don't know how these people do it, you know, Ferraris and Bentleys and all this. But it's not really, to be honest, I've never done YouTube for money or for fame, really. I've done it because I've made content. Sometimes it's been rubbish, let's be fair. Sometimes we think our own stuff is great and we watch it back 10 years later and we go, what was I thinking? Which is a lot of my stuff. But now I really just dedicate YouTube to a channel called MaxiAspie, which is just kind of raising awareness towards autism. But at the same time, if I do some exciting stuff, I always film it. And, you know, if it's stuff that I think, oh, that's good, you know, I should put that on my blog, like I'm filming today, so that'll be on the blog. You know, I always put it up. So it's just a mixture of raising awareness and things that I think people will like to watch. So I also do acting. So I started acting, 2013, I would say. I started doing just small plays, and I'll get more into that. But since then, I've been on like Holby City, Doctors, done some adverts for Ford, Santander, and yeah, I've had some auditions with some big shows, but haven't got them. But it's always the way. I think the main thing in acting, which can be hard for someone with autism, is rejection. You know. And you get a lot of it in acting, but I think with me now, I just kind of take it in my stride and just hope that one day I'll get that, you know, I'll get that break that I need. But it is a lot of rejection, you know. It's like, it is just like going to a job interview 24/7 and then just going no. I also am an ambassador for the National Autistic Society. So off the back of the acting, it's a really nice story. One of my old teachers got in touch with me over Twitter. So he saw me on Holby and Doctors, and he got in touch with me on Twitter. And this teacher was great, you know, he changed my life, and, you know, we're really good friends now. We actually do speeches like this. We go across, you know, United Kingdom, we do some nice speeches with each other. But because of him, basically, he saw that the Autism Society was looking for an autistic actor to be in their campaign. So he sent me the link and he said, oh, you know, I think you should go for it. So I went for it, and I, you know, thought, fingers crossed, always hope, ready for the rejection. I always say, you know, expect the worst, hope for the best. And I got the part. So off the back of that, I then was the ambassador for the National Autistic Society. So if it wasn't for that happening, you know, I wouldn't have that. So I always thank him for that. And, you know, he's very humble. He never says, oh, it's because of me. You know, he's not one of those bits, it's all because of me, man. And what I do is I set a goal since 2014 that I do something for charity every year. So the first year I done a skydive, started big, wasn't a great move. It's one of those moments when you just think, yeah, I could do that, and then you look at the plane and you start looking at the people falling, and you're doing it before you, and you think, well, I sign myself up. And the best thing is, if it's for charity, you can't back out. It's too late then, because you've got the money, you know, and you're just sat there like, can I just say I done it? No, they want video evidence. So yeah, that was bad. Then the second year I done an abseil, and that was for so the first year was Make-A-Wish Foundation. Second year was for the National Autistic Society. I done an abseil off the red twirly thing next to the orbital muscle. Abseiled off that. That was actually worse because they get you to like lean back and you think, right, my weight, you know, this rope's just going to snap. You know, at least when I'm doing the skydive, someone's with me. But this one, you're just leaning back. You're thinking, oh, this rope's going to snap, isn't it? And then they make you put your knees on the wall, and you just think, oh, you know, they're getting ready to kind of, and then they just go, all right, off you go, and you're like, what? And you're like at that point, you're like dangling off. So yeah, that was probably worse. And the worst one I done was last year. I done it for a head teacher that sadly passed away. So it went towards pancreatic cancer, and his name was Bob Marchbank. He was actually the head teacher of this special school I went to, and I done a 15k run on the day that Harry and Meghan got married. So hottest day of the year, sunburnt to anything. 4 hours later, yeah, that's how long it took me. I was one of these, you know, strong lads that was just running like it was nothing. Yeah, I was just like, I'll be with you in a minute. And this year I'll be doing a zip line in Wales. It's like the biggest, fastest zip line. That's to celebrate kind of 10 years since, not celebrate, but it's in memory of my granddad that passed away 10 years ago, and my cousin that just recently passed away as well. So that'll be going towards the British Heart Foundation, and the other side will be going to Roy Castle Foundation, which deal with lung cancer. So I'm just going to talk a bit about primary school, what helped, what didn't, relationship with peers, relationship with teachers. Relationship with students was really difficult for me because at that point I'm 6 years old, I can't talk, and I remember playing football, and I had no idea how to play football. I was useless at it. But I was that bad, I used to run in the middle of the pitch and pick the ball up and run with it while people were playing. And you know, these other kids are having a go at me thinking, you know, what, you thick, you know, what, can't you play football, what's wrong with you, you're stupid, you're this, you're that. In reality, I can't say anything back because one, I can't talk very well, you know, I'm barely getting mum out, you know what I mean? You know, you don't want to say mum to the students, you're a mum. It's bad enough when you say it to a teacher, you know, all the kids go, oh, you know. So, you know, that was really difficult, but two students took me aside, two friends, and they taught me how to play football. So it was little things like that that really helped. And I think later on in my school life it got better. As years went on, it got much easier for me to make friends. You know, it's very difficult to begin with because I didn't know what was normal, what wasn't, what should I say, what I shouldn't. What people do as well, you know, bless him, my dad was quite protected as well because, you know, I would say, oh, you know, so and so's going down the park, and I go with him, and you know, my dad knowing that, you know, with my condition it might be harder for me, and you know what situation I might get myself into, I think it was very hard for them to let go and kind of say, you know, all right, you know, I remember going to youth club, and my dad was very kind of hesitant to let me go to the youth club, even though it was down the road, because it was just that, are they going to pick on him? Are they going to be horrible? Are they going to understand? Are the parents going to understand? You know, because sometimes, as probably all of you know, when you've got children, they've got a condition as well. It's not only the teachers that can be the problem; it's also the other students' parents. You know, and I'd say the understanding got better now, but there's still that kind of. I remember at primary school, and a lot of kids didn't let me around their house, and I never really knew why. And now I'm grown up enough to know. It's probably a lot of parents went, oh, Max, you know, really? Look, someone in round, be up the wall, throwing things about, and that. And it's because of the lack of understanding, you know. But also because, you know, you get yourself in situations at that age. I mean, I remember I ran down the road, funny story, I ran down the road and I locked my best mate's mum out of her car, and I didn't get out of it for an hour. And they eventually got me out, and then I laid on their trampoline for about another hour, and I wouldn't go. So, you know, things like that obviously don't help, but it's the understanding, I suppose, as well, of knowing that these things could happen, and what can we do to make sure that he's all right and we're all right, and we can handle it when worse comes to the worst. So, you know, a lot of kids, I'd say, didn't really want to hang out with me because my conditions, because of the way I was. You know, at the same time with OCD, you know, you're not eating anything because you think everything's poisoned. You know, kids are going to think, when we hang around with him, he thinks his sandwich is poisoned, for Christ's sake. You know, why am I going to hang out with him for? So relationship with peers could be quite difficult. Relationship with teachers is a tricky one because I think there was good teachers there, but there weren't enough that understood autism. For instance, I remember when my mum, well, I don't remember because I was too young, but my mum, when she asked about the fact, could he have autism, you know, I think he's got autism, one of the teachers turned around and said, he hasn't got autism, he's just naughty. So, you know, that's the kind of understanding I think that we had at that time. And don't get me wrong, there were some great teachers there. I remember a PE teacher, funny enough, and he knew I wasn't very great verbally. So instead of saying, "Are you all right?" and expecting an answer, he would turn around to me and go, "Max, are we having one of these today? Are we having one of these? Are we in the middle? Where are we?" And literally, I just used to go, if I was having a rubbish day, I'd go like that, proper down. If it was a good day, I'd be going like that. So even through that small little action that sounds so easy, he was able to tell straight away what mood I was in. As well as that, I had a TA at the primary school who was really nice. She taught me how to read, funny enough, because I was sitting in class and I couldn't read, I was useless with it. And I dreaded the point where they used to go, "Okay, you can read the line, and then it came to me, because I'd be thinking, I've got a book here that I can't read, and I don't want to say I can't read it because I'm embarrassed, and then you try and have a go with it, and then you end up getting it wrong, people then laugh, so it can be very tricky, I think, to kind of try and learn in that environment when people don't understand. But there was one TA that was really nice. She really understood me, and then I had a teacher in year 5, and she was probably one of the best teachers I ever had. What she done was she realised I used to get anxious a lot. I used to worry too much. And what she done was she set up my own little desk in the room. She got me to bring in some family photos that I could put on the wall, and she got me a green box, and she said, "Anytime you worry about anything, I want you to write it down and put it in the box." And I think what that taught me was something that worried me right in the morning. I'd put it in the box, I'd forget about it, and by the end of the day I went back and had a look, it was no longer a worry. It was just one of those silly worries that, I had that I didn't, and it taught me how to prioritise my worries as such, what's important and what isn't. But then you go on to year 6, and the year 6 teacher grabbed the box and she said, "You won't be needing this anymore, will you?" And she threw it in the bin. So it's that understanding, that year 5 teacher was brilliant, but you go on to year 6, they think, "Oh, he's old enough now, we don't need a box." It's not about the age, it's just about how you cope in that situation, how you manage your condition. So that was things that didn't help. Things that helped, there was a talent contest at the school, and I'm a rubbish singer now, and I probably was back then, but I just like to think I was brilliant because it makes me sleep at night, really. So I joined a talent show, I came second, I lost by 3 points. I come back the year after, like George Sampson. I was like, right, I'm going to win this year, and won it the last year of school. So it must have been all right to win it, or people just thought, "Oh, we're voting," a bit like a Jedward Act, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I loved it, and it was probably the first time I felt failure and kind of thought, okay, so what do I do with that? And it taught me, to come back fighting, really, and don't give up on what you want to do. So that was that school, and sadly what happened after that school was, so the secondary school I went, all my friends went up to the school up the road, and I went all the way to a school up in another town, basically. So I had to make friends again, I had to get to know new teachers again, I had to kind of adjust my whole being as such, just to make sure I can get by. Relationship with students, a lot of the students just wanted me to be naughty. That's what I found, and I then played up to that because I thought they were my friends, and I then became something I really wasn't, which was just, not a horrible person, but just naughty. I was, but I was kind of, I always say, and it's not a good thing to say, but I always say I was naughty in a bit of a clever way, because for instance, I would say to the teacher, "I'm going to the toilet," but I would know what, and this is how bad it got, to the point where you're thinking too much about what other people think of you. So I used to go to the toilet, I used to know what my friend's tutor class was, and I used to run past the room, because then it made it look like I was doing something I weren't. And that was just so they thought, "Oh yeah, that guy's cool, he's running, and he's doing all this crazy stuff." In reality, I was just going to the toilet. But But as we all know, one lie turns into another, and then you build up this kind of act which you can't even back up because there's people who actually live it, you know? And that was where it became bad, because then I was involving myself with people in the wrong crowd who I wasn't anywhere near, you know, to real than what they were. You know, they were kind of living proof, and I was just a kind of comedy act, you know. It's just kind of, I'm like you, no you're not. So that's where my problems lied, and I didn't have a lot of friends at that school. The only friends I really had was in the ASD unit, because I think because we all had autism, you know, we all kind of felt that we didn't have to pretend around each other. But when it came to real life situations, we would tone it in a bit more and things like that. Relationship with teachers, main teachers were fine. Never really had a big issue with any teachers at the school. It was just the understanding again, even with the teachers in the ASD unit. One of the things I always asked, this was one of the things that didn't help, was I always said, I'm going to need help because I'm not that bright, you know, from primary school. I probably got year 6 handwriting still, you know, so I said, you know, I'm definitely going to need help. But what I didn't want was to go into a classroom and have a TA sat right next to me, because straight away, for that point, all the kids now know that you're different, and they use that, especially in secondary school, because they just like to pick on people. You know, no matter who you are, what you got, they're finding something, and I just didn't want to give them that something. I didn't want to just hand it to them and go, yeah, there it is. You know, that's what you can, you know, roast me about. And they said, oh, you know, no problem. Yeah, we'll sort it. So it's kind of like a, you know, we can hover, so everyone kind of doesn't know that I'm there for you. Anyway, the first lesson, she sat right next to me, and you know, and that was it. So from the get-go, every kid in my tutoring knew that I was different. That led to them trying to egg me on to do bad things, and yeah, you know, in the end, you know, that's kind of where it went wrong. Things that helped, I would say, it got me into editing. We'd done like a PGL trip and I loved it. I normally hate staying away places, I just can't stand it. But they'd done a PGL trip and I loved it. And when we got back, they got me to edit it. And never edited before really. Had a look and I thought, oh, I really like this. And you know, that's kind of what got me into computer, because in the end, things would go wrong with the editing system. I would then try and fix it myself. And then that's what led me on to become a technician. But I still edit now, you know, to this day I still edit the YouTube videos, so it really got me into editing, which is what I love to do, especially when it looks good. When it looks rubbish, you start contemplating your decision. But when it looks good, you know, you think, oh, that's, you know, and then you pester your mum and dad to watch it, and they're going, they've got Britain's Got Talent to watch, it's going to take out, you know. And bless them, they do sit through it, you know, to be fair. Literally, I went to America recently, and the blog was 2 hours long, and my mum and dad sat through it. So they are saints, you know. And my mum always goes, yeah, but I don't want to watch everything you do. And I go, well, you should, Mum, you should really want to have an interest. She goes, well, do you watch me iron? Do you watch me cook the dinner? I'm proud of that. I go, yeah, but it's different. No, it's not. I'm proud of the dinners I cook. I go, well, you got a point. Yes, she has. But I said, yeah, I'm not watching you iron, Mum. So, anyway, so the thing with this ASD unit was, if I had to give it a rating as well, I wouldn't rate the school very high. I'd probably give it literally a 3 out of 10, to be honest. The school was really poor. And it kills me to say it, because you think with a school with an ASD unit, they'd be very good. But unfortunately, what a lot of it lies down to is statistics. And I saw a lot of people with autism who would go to their classrooms and do lessons and do really well. But the people that struggled got into the wrong crowds, or had that difficulty of going into lessons like myself, because there was like 7 people at one point wanting to beat me up and I was scared of going into the class. They would then kick out and they go, right, we can't deal with you anymore. And you think, an ASD unit, where do these kids go? Well, if an ASD unit can't handle them, where do they go after that, you know? And it just saddens me really, the fact that, you know, the exclusion rate is higher than it's ever been, and the fact that there's people in schools that haven't got a diagnosis of autism, haven't got a diagnosis of these needs, and some people, we can blatantly see these traits in them, and to think that these schools just go, no, we can't deal with it. And, you know, it saddens me that happens, and I just don't think it should. But to happen in an ASD unit where they know you've got autism and they exclude you for not being great, you know, that's why I'm here. I wouldn't be here if I was great. But the fact that they kick you out for that, I just thought was, you know, really, really bad. And I remember them, you know, they told my mum, and they basically said, right, it's either this school, which was an autistic school, or boarding school. And, you know, my mum cried her eyes out because she knew I wouldn't like boarding school, and she wouldn't want me there either. The school wasn't great. I got kicked out of there in year 9, so my secondary school, you know, I know that's a tongue twister, isn't it? This school was brilliant. I couldn't knock this school whatsoever. The only thing I'd say is the education wasn't brilliant because the school didn't offer GCSEs, so it left me in a bit of a sticky situation when I left school because I kind of had no qualifications to say, look what I can do. But the support at this school was second to none, and the school has really improved. I've gone back there, I'm going back there Monday to do a speech. They offer GCSEs now. They've really kind of narrowed the school down to a T of how they can give that support in a more effective way as well. Relationship with kids, at the time the school was quite different to what it is now, because most of the students are it's more of an autism school, as back then they dealt with a lot of people who had traumatic kind of experiences, so it could be an angry environment. You know, I'll be honest, a lot of times I'll be sat in class, you know, one of the guys would say, oh, you know, you whatever, you know, you this, you that, you know, and a fight would probably break out twice a day in the classroom. I saw teachers get headbutted, kicked, spat at, and if anything, they looked at me as a teacher, because they used to throw me the walkie-talkie and I used to call for help. So I used to be like, oh, we need support in, you know, blah blah, and the teachers would come round me. They could restrain at the school, so a lot of the students got restrained. Luckily, I never got restrained. I was always on green status, which was the best one you could have. I just didn't see the need of ever being aggressive, really. Don't get me wrong, I think I was upset about how life had gone at that point, but it wasn't their fault, you know, it wasn't them to blame. I was more angry at situations that happened that were beyond my control, but I'd never take out my anger on them. If anything, I've always been angry through words, I suppose. More of that has probably gone to my mum, bless her, and she probably had to put up with a lot of that over the years. But you know, my mum's always set that line as well. I've never swore at my mum and dad, you know, because I know that's a no-go. You know, I know. Don't get me wrong. I know it's weird because sometimes words will fly out and you think, oh, I didn't mean that, but not ever is to the point where I've said, you know, go yourself, mum. You know, like never has got that bad, because I just know that's, you know, my mum can take the words and the grief and how I feel, but the minute I'm disrespectful is the minute she's, no, that's not on. And I'll be honest, I've just been too scared to cross that. So, you know, I say how I feel and I move quick, and that's it. But yeah, don't get me wrong, there's been times where you're close, but you just think, oh. And they're like, yeah, you better, you better. You're that close. So, you know, my mum has kind of felt the brunt, I think, more of things. But getting back to this anyway, the teachers at that school were brilliant. There was one teacher that didn't understand, and that's very unusual because normally it's one teacher understands and the other didn't. At this school, there was one teacher that didn't understand, and he turned around to me, it's no word of a lie. He said, "What do you want to do when you grow up, Max?" I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just said, "Oh, a lawyer." And he goes, "Oh, you need to have good grades to do that. You need to go to uni." I go, "Well, you can do anything if you put your mind to it." He turned around to me and he went, "People that say that, Max, are liars." He goes, "People that say you can do anything in life are lies." He goes, "I want to be a pilot, but I can be a pilot." So I went home and told my dad. My dad had a few strong words, to say the least. But I took my dad's words and I changed them in a way that, again, you know, with the respect level, I could tell him how I felt without crossing that line of disrespect. So I just said to him, just because you didn't achieve the things that you wanted to do in life doesn't mean that no one else will, and you shouldn't pass that upon other people. And to that, you've got to imagine, right, because I'm in like year 9 at this stage, and year 9 students just come up to him and said this, very articulate, and he's thinking, crap, I can't say anything to that because he hasn't said anything wrong. So, you know, that was probably the one teacher that I didn't, you know, he didn't really understand, but all the other teachers, as I say, the stuff they had to put up with, you know, and they came in the next day, they had a smile on their face, but the true thing is, the reason they were good was because they didn't just understand the condition, but they understood each individual. They knew the things that worked for me, they knew the things that worked for so-and-so, and they knew that that thing might not work for him, but that's all right, we'll find something else. As with me, you know, let's calm Max down, what can we talk about? All right, let's talk about wrestling, go on for ages, that'll calm him down. So-and-so might not want to talk, just leave him, just take him somewhere away from the classroom for 5 minutes and wait until he speaks, you know. So some things, they realise the concept that not everything's going to work for everyone, but we've got to find out what works for them. And that school was brilliant at that. As I say, the only thing that didn't help was the GCSE side of things, because I thought, okay, what am I going to do with life, you know, after this? Rating of school, I'd give that school a good 8 out of 10. I think it would literally be a 10 if they offered the GCSEs. But I'll be honest, Ofsted came and they rated their IT a 10, and their IT was not a 10. Their laptops took like 40 minutes to log on, like, and he said the IT facility was brilliant. It weren't. I reckon they like robbed a laptop that day. Log on to it locally, kind of thing, away from the network. But yeah, don't know how that happened. What happened next with a strange smiley face? So after I left school, I started thinking, oh God, what am I going to do? I've got no GCSEs. I've got a condition long as my arm. What am I going to do? So the school organised some work experience for me, and I've done work experience in a cafe. That first week I realised I never want to work in a cafe. I loved the workplace. The workplace was lovely, they all understood, the employees were lovely, but I knew I didn't want to be doing that for the rest of my life, and it weren't for me, you know, and that's fine, you know, because someone with autism anyway, there's a lot of textures we don't like, so when I'm washing up things, I'm getting my hands smelling and stinking, I'm thinking, oh, that feels horrible, I'm throwing that away, then I've got to serve a customer that I've never met and got to look him in the eye and be like, hello, yeah, what do you want? Now I've got to remember his order, I'm writing it down, yeah, take a cappuccino, 2, yeah, and then I've got to go back and I've got to make, and I'm thinking, this ain't for me. Most of the time I think they've got their orders wrong, to be honest. You ordered a Coke, no cappuccino, you're having a Coke now. So, first week there, didn't like it. So after time out, I then went Kaspersky Abbey. I walked in day one, right, and I thought I was like the bee's knees. I walked in, I was like, yeah, I know everything. They're all going to come to me. And the first day I walked out, got into the car, and my mum went, how did it go? And I went, I know nothing about IT. And that's when I learned with IT, there's always something to learn, but not only with IT, with life. You know, there's always something we can learn, and it taught me that I don't know everything, and in actual fact, I barely know anything. So, you know, it taught me the realisation of life, and I loved it there. I loved it. You know, I loved the learning aspect, and they were going to take me on for an internship, but they moved from office from Abingdon all the way to London. So, unfortunately, it was too long, and I couldn't go to it in the end. So then went to Newbury College. I think it's fair to say college wasn't for me. While I was at college, I found my love for acting. I sat there, don't judge me, and I was watching EastEnders of all things, and I said I would love to do that. I'd love the fact of playing a character and telling a really good story, night in, night out. And I said, well, get off your bum and do it. So I joined a play in Newbury called The Passion. I had like one line which was like, ye worthy men, goodly and great, God increase all in common estate and all this jazz. And then after that, I got into another play called The Tragedy on Embourne Road, which was a true story that happened in Newbury. I played the village idiot. It's not far from the truth. So that was a good role. Had to act drunk and idiotic, which again, worked that hard. And then I got my first kind of TV kind of ish role, which was an extra on Glue. So the makeup artist who was doing The Tragedy on Embourne Road said, "Oh, Glue's looking for extras." So I said, "Oh, you know, that could be my step in." So I said, "Oh, I'll go along." Anyway, at this time I'd never got a bus before, I'd never done any of this stuff. And again, my mum's very clever in the way that she works. So I'd just been offered the apprenticeship job at this new workplace, and she knew I was going to have to get the bus every day, because she's like, "I'm not taking you. You want a job, you go off and do it, you know?" So when Glue came up, for months on end, I said, "No, I'm not getting the bus, you have to drive me and all this." And she's going, "Oh yeah, I've got work, I've got other things to do, you know." And I'm thinking, "No, you can," and it just went backwards and forwards. So I said to her, "Can you drive me to the extra thing? I'm in Lambourne." She goes, "No, you can get the bus, if that's something you really want to do." I said, "But Mum, it is." And she's going, "Well, you have to get the bus." So what she used was something that I really wanted to do. She knew that a job was, he might go, he might not. But for something I really wanted to do, really loved, she said, "No, you're going to have to get the bus." Be fair to her, she said on the day, she goes, "Do you want me to give you a lift?" And I said, "No, Mum." I said, "You're right, I've got to do this on my own." Which is probably one of the worst mistakes I made, because I spilled coke down my trousers, so I looked like I wet myself. I had no idea where I was going on the bus. I literally said to the driver, "Where is Lambourne?" He goes, "Oh, it's near a monument," and I passed 3 of them on the way. So, and then I got there, and the person that was meant to be picking me up wasn't there. I got in the queue. The first thing I was asked was, "Do you want to go topless?" And I said no. And then I said, I queued, and they said, "What's your name?" And there's a guy in front of me, and he said Max. They went, "What, Max Green?" He goes, "No, what kind of name that?" And then I'm behind him, so I'm thinking, "Oh, I've got to go up and say my name." So he's like, "What's your name, Max?" "Max who? Max Green." "Max what?" "Max Green." They're laughing. And then I'm dressed quite, casual, nice, like for like a little party or whatever. And they turned around and said, "Oh, you're meant to be dressed as a rave." So I've gone into this big tent, and they've changed my costume. I've come out with like a Hawaiian shirt on with shorts with sunglasses on, look like a right idiot. And then I was speaking to this guy who's like got to be probably about 40 years old, but I always get on well with better people that are older than me anyway. So I'm speaking to him, I thought nothing of what he's wearing, nothing of it at all. And anyway, the director comes out, he goes, "Right, bring on the naked women." So these women come out, and I'm thinking, "Oh my God, what have I signed up for?" And then they're going, "Right, bring on this bloke with a bikini," and the bloke comes on with a bikini. And he goes, "Right, and bring on the naked guy." Anyway, the guy that I'm speaking with, the 40-year-old, he undoes his robe, and he's bloody everything. Yeah. So got in the car, and Mum was like, "How did it go?" And I went, "I've got to go home, I've got a shower." Literally, it put me off acting for a little while, so I thought, is this like what everything's like? But the best thing I'd done while I was there is there was a rope separating the extras and the actors. Me being me, you only live once, you're only here once, I want to find out how to get into acting. So me being me, I'll just step over the road, right? So all these actors that like speaking, you've got a guy from Rizzle Kicks up there, Jordan, right? So I've walked up, they're going, "Who are you?" And I'm going, and I'm thinking, "Oh God, what do I say to that?" So anyway, I go, "Oh, I'm an actor, I'm just joining the cast next week, I just want to see how the show operates." No, all right. They all believed me. So I'm quitting it now. I'm thinking I'm part of the gang. So I'm like going, "Who's your agent? How do I know who's legit? How do I know who's not?" And I'm just getting all this information. So a good 2 years after Glue, probably a year to be fair, I was emailing every casting director I could find in the UK and Ireland. So in that time, I joined Sovereign for my apprenticeship. I applied out of about 400 people. They narrowed it down to 100. I went on the job interview. I said, "What do I wear?" And they said, "Just come smart," right? I turned out very similar to this. Everyone else is wearing a suit. I'm thinking, I'm never getting this job, not in a million years. No, I'm never getting this. So anyway, they then say, "Right, we're going to do a maths and English test." I'm thinking, right, where's the door? Because I'm rubbish with both. And then they're getting everybody in the room, you know how you do when you want to make people nervous when you do this. They go, "Oh, what's your name?" "Right, and what's yours? Where are you from? What job do you do?" And as an autistic person, I'm thinking, "Oh, please don't ask me." And anyway, they did. And then you're involved in a group exercise, you're in a desert, what do? You know, I just want to say, well, I'll just give up and lie down, to be honest, because nobody got time for that. But then you've got to kind of come up with clever ideas, and I'm thinking, oh. But the saving grace was the interview went really well, the tests went hideous, the group exercise was all right, because I just never shut up. But I took the book that I'd done at Kaspersky, all the learning I did, I took the book. I call it the blue book because every job interview I've gone to, it always brings me luck, and I always end up getting the job if I take the evidence. But I took the book, 2 books worth, and even though I was really bad at explaining things, they could see I'd done the work. So they thought, okay. I didn't hear for 3 weeks, and I thought I haven't got it. And anyway, 3 weeks later, they rang up, and my mum picked up the phone, and she said, "I was just giving feedback on Max's interview." And she goes, "Oh, I guess he didn't get it then." And they went, "Oh no, he got it." So I got the job. I found out after that they was that impressed by me. They were only meant to take on 1 that year, who they'd already met, but they decided to take on 2. So they didn't get budget the next year for an apprentice. So sorry about that. And they took 2 on. But the things that I had to pass was I had to pass Maths level 2, English level 2, and then my NVQ, which was quite difficult because Maths I'm terrible with. How many times do you think it took me to pass Maths?
4. 10.
A little bit hard.
8.
6.
8 times. 8 times it took me. But I didn't give up. And you know, the people that done the qualifications, West Berkshire Training Consortium, they literally saw me come in every time, just kind of like, all right, I'm ready. And I'd always miss it by like 1 mark, 2, and it was so close all the time. But I remember the phone call, one of them I just totally panicked on, I just froze, and they said, we're thinking about sending you back to lessons again. And I said, no, just give me 1 more shot. And she goes, yeah, but I'm sad, I'm worried you'll get disheartened. I said, look, if I fail this 40 times, I'm still going to be here. I'm going to be like 67 at that time, but I'll still be here, you know? I'm going to pass this, and I'm going to do it. I said, if I fail 1 more time, I said, send me back to lessons. I said, but just I feel like I've got 1 more in me. And they did, and then I passed. So, off the back of that, I went for Sovereign Apprentice of the Year. I was a runner-up. I went for West Berkshire Apprentice of the Year, and I'd come runner-up. Again though, determination. After the maths and after I passed my apprenticeship, I went for it again, and then I won the award. So I won West Berkshire Apprentice of the Year off the back of that. So finally, acting, my big break comes up now. I come home one day, I've got an email from Casualty Director, and he says, oh, we're looking for people, your name came up, and I've decided to shortlist you, so if anything comes up, I'll let you know. And I'm thinking, great. I don't hear anything from him, so I email him around Christmas again, and I say, look, I'm still here if you need me. So I come home one day, and I get an email from the Holby City Director, and she goes, we've got a role, we'd like you to come up for an audition. That week was probably the biggest arguments in the house I've ever witnessed. It was like Big Brother. You know, people just, you know, I was saying to my mum, you know, can you take me? She's going, I've got work. And I'm going, yeah, if you love me though, you'll do it. And blah. And she's going, I can't, I'm working. It's a Friday, they're busy on a Friday. I'm going, oh, you don't love me. And blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it's just chaotic all week. But I finally done something I never do. I ring my nan. Nan is just, you know, Nan will just back me up. You know, Nan's certainty, you know. Someone's taking my side, and I never do it, but I thought this time it's like pushing the red button. You know, this is the time. So my nan's then rang my aunt and said, can you take him? And my auntie took me. Anyway, I went all the way up to London. I learnt my lines on the way there because it was always touch and go whether or not I was going to make it. And I went into the room, I was so nervous, and I remember shaking, and I remember thinking to myself, don't you shake now, you can shake after, but don't you screw it up now. Anyway, they said, you know, you've done really well, got really proud, you know, you won't know till next Tuesday. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Walked out the room, and this was about 6 o'clock, got home for about 9 when my mum was then picking me up from my auntie's, and literally we drove a little bit down the road, and I logged onto my email, and I saw that I had an email at 6:15. I hadn't checked, and it was an email from Holby City saying that they wanted me for the the main parts. My mum stopped the car midway through the road, pulled over, ran back into my armies and said, "You got the part, you got the part." So I was in about 13 scenes in Holby City, really good part, main part of the week. And then off the back of that, Holby City said, "You're going to need an agent." And I said, "Oh, okay." So then they referred me to this woman and she said, "Oh, we'd love to have him." So I've been with her now since 2015 now, so nearly 4 years. It goes quick. And then since then, I went on to Doctors twice. I've been on Doctors twice. That was really good. And then I've done the National Autistic Society advert that I spoke about earlier. So I'm now ambassador for them. Off the back of that, I've been on BBC Breakfast, The Right Stuff, and the Ford advert. Went on to become a senior technician at Thames Water. Filmed for Santander. It's been a long road, a lot of obstacles in the way, but yeah, got there in the end. And don't intend to give up. You know, there's always something else that I want to do.